On Sunday, January 21st, 2018, a human skull was found in a rural area of Tennessee. Who did it belong to, and how did it get there? Hello, true crimerers. This is another true crime in a short amount of time, and it is the case of David Riemens. Viewer discretion is advised. David was born on January 17th, 1952 in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's a fun city to say. He had about five brothers and sisters. He had five brothers and sisters. By the mid-70s or so, he decided to pick up and leave Michigan, and he moved to Tennessee. This was after he married his high school sweetheart, but unfortunately they would later divorce. David would never remarry, and he really wasn't much about the dating life pretty much after that. He became a bit of kind of like a hermit, I guess. He liked to live off the grid. He didn't have a cell phone. He never owned a computer or a laptop or a tablet or anything like that. He would end up moving onto the property of some very good friends of his, and he actually lived in a treehouse, which is different, but also, you know what, kind of cool. David was a stonemason. He was also an artist, but his big claim to fame was that he built his friends like this little, a little home, if you want to call it that. But the door to the house was a almost exact replica of a Hobbit door from The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings movies. The way he made money was he would sell his oil paintings, and he made several of them, but he also wanted to keep a lot of them because he was just proud of them. He enjoyed making his own homemade postcards and sending them to his family, who he was still very close with despite them not living in the same state. On August 8th, 2012, David had told some friends that he came across an older man kind of near town, but not in town. He saw this man had a whole bunch of bricks, and David, the artist and stonemason that he is, says he's told his friends that he told the man that, hey, I can build something for you. I can really put something together for you really nice. And apparently this older man said yes. But he never told anyone where this property was and anything to do with the man he was apparently in contact with about doing this construction job. So on August 8th, 2012, at approximately 1:30 p.m., David was set to have one last meeting with this man, and then the following day, he was going to be driving to Michigan to actually visit his family. Well, at 1:30 p.m. on that August 8th day in 2012, he was last seen going into a Dollar General store in Watertown. He was observed by a friend who he had a conversation with just outside the store. The friend observed him going into the store, but that was the last time anyone can recall seeing him. He never made it to his family's house in Michigan. This is when people noticed that David's white pickup truck was actually still in the parking lot of the Dollar General store. Inside the vehicle was his wallet, but the keys were gone. Everything was in his wallet, minus whatever cash he may have had. That was empty. And unfortunately, because he didn't ever own a cell phone or any electronics, no one could get a hold of him. No one could text him. No one could call him. There was no way of knowing if he had gone somewhere. He just fell off the grid. So fairly quickly after this, he was reported missing by his friends and family. He was very close with his friends. Despite his hermit-like life, he had a very great group of friends that he was always very close with and always in touch with. So they would report him missing. They would kind of say, I read in a couple articles, that they weren't exactly super pleased with the entire investigation, but at the same time, there really wasn't much for them to do. They had no way of tracing him electronically. He did take out about $300 from his bank account the day that he disappeared, but there has been no other money going in or out of his bank account. He obviously didn't have his car, so that seems kind of odd that he would just pick up and leave his truck. And his bag of clothing and whatnot that was also in the truck. He also left his dog behind at his home where he normally lived. And he would never just pick up and leave his dog. He loved his dog very much. So police wanted to wonder who this old man was that he was supposed to be meeting to do a possible, construction job. Who was this old man with all these bricks? Well, they went around the entire area because David said it was like within 30 minutes or so of town. So they went all over the place. They went to farmlands. They looked at any buildings that had bricks laying out in front of them. They couldn't find anything. They found nothing, and they found no one. They put the information out for the public so that maybe this person could come forward, but they never did. So there is now a suspicion that whoever this man was possibly was someone who did something not so nice to David. But it just went cold. I mean, they had nothing. There was no physical evidence. There was no signs of any foul play. He just vanished. But then it would be 6 years later when a local man stumbled across something that he thought looked like human remains. He alerted police, and then police began to comb the area, and they would end up finding the rest of the remains. So they found the skull, and then the remainder of the skeleton was found, I guess, a few feet away. They would do all sorts of forensic testing on the bones. They would do dental records, and the remains were confirmed to be that of 60-year-old David Riemens. The problem is there is no signs of any trauma to his bones. So there were no gunshots through his bones. There was no stab or cutting marks on his bones. So there was literally no indication of how he actually died. So they could not say that this was a homicide, not because they didn't want to, it's just because they didn't have the evidence to support that. Obviously, he could have died a number of other ways, one being strangulation. They basically went from a missing persons investigations to essentially just a more generic criminal investigation to see what happened to David. But even with his remains, they still had almost nothing. They did actually have a couple of the bricks that he had taken from that man's property in his pickup truck. Apparently, one of the officers in charge of this case actually keeps the brick, one of them, in his truck because he says if he ever stumbles across a property where he sees a bunch of bricks, he's going to compare them. I don't know how accurate that comparison could be, but you never know. The other brick, the second one, is kept in an evidence locker. They, of course, searched the entire area where his remains were found. They looked into all the people who owned property in that area, but apparently at this point they haven't found any viable suspects. They haven't said if they've ruled anyone in or out. They don't know. They haven't said if they've actually named a suspect, if there even is one on their radar. It's not known. Everyone in David's life, however, truly believes that this was homicide, that he was murdered. And the police don't necessarily doubt that either. I think they feel pretty confident, saying that he is likely a murder victim, but they just can't say it for sure. If you have any information on this case, you can contact the Wilson County Police Department there in Tennessee. And you can ask for Detective Robert Stafford. So unfortunately, this case remains unsolved. But hopefully one day his friends and family can get some kind of closure. But that is it for this case, folks. I hope you found it interesting. As usual, please like, comment, and subscribe if you are into true crime. I got a whole bunch more videos on here, so yay. Until the next case, True Crimeroonies, I shall see you on the flippity flip. What?